We are going to get started. We have a very full agenda today, and I have a number of items before us on the agenda to get us started this morning before we get into our agenda. And the very first one, I am going to call, there he is. I'm going to ask, Commissioners, we have 4 things on our agenda before we get started, and then we have a presentation, and then we'll get into the agenda action items, and then at the end of our action items, I'd like to leave some time just for us to have a little bit of a budget discussion. I know we have our public hearing tonight, and I want to be mindful of that we still have a lot of input from the community that we're getting right now, but I want us to have a conversation about any potential changes that we'd like to see made in preparation for next week's budget session and discussion, and hopefully finalization and approval. So with that, I'm going to call James Hurt up to the podium and have him kick us off today with presenting a much-deserved award. Welcome, James.
Thank you. Welcome. Well, good morning, Mayor, Commissioners, Mr. City Manager. As President-elect for the American Public Works Association's Michigan chapter, I'm pleased to present to the City of Grand Rapids an APWA award. 2016 Project of the Year in the Environment category, $1 million to $5 million for energy improvements at the Water Resource Recovery Facility. Recognizing that the Water Resource Recovery Facility is a major consumer of energy, the City of Grand Rapids teamed with Optera Energy Services to complete the first phase of a successful energy efficiency program at the facility. The City and Optera worked together to identify opportunities that would best fit the needs of the city while achieving its vigorous sustainability goals. Work was performed at the Grand Rapids Water Resource Recovery Facility and the associated Market Avenue Pump Station, Market Avenue Retention Basin, and the Sewer Maintenance Building. Design build was the project delivery method used that included performance guarantees. Franklin Holwerda was responsible for all the mechanical work, including installation of a spiral heat exchanger combined and heat pumps to heat and cool the Environmental Services Administration building with waste heat from the Water Resource Recovery Facility final effluent. You can imagine what that means. The Energy Focus Program is aligned with the city's broader vision for sustainability and will save the city $2.2 million in energy costs over the next 15 years. Let me repeat that. $2.2 million in energy costs over the next 15 years. On behalf of the APWA Michigan chapter, I want to extend congratulations to the City of Grand Rapids, Greg Kuzmarek on the team, John Hayes, Jack Freiling from Holwerda on this outstanding award. If I could have them come up here, please. Congratulations. Thank you. Hey, thanks. All right, who's going to say a few words? John. 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 Thanks, John.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It was a really kind of a groundbreaking project for the city in that it was a design build, and we worked with Optera on them coming in and looking at the project, looking at the plant, and finding the best resources that we could work on getting our efficiencies. It was the first one that I've ever worked on like that. It was a very educational project, and it was a groundbreaking project, I think, for the city. And with the great partnerships we have with FHC and with Optera, it turned out to be a very successful project.
Very cool.
Is there anything you want to add?
Well done.
Thank you.
Congratulations. All right, so next I am really pleased to announce today that the city also recently received the Investment Policy Certificate of Excellence Award from the Association of Public Treasurers of the United States and Canada. So I want to invite our very own city treasurer, John Globinski, who has been serving our city in this capacity. Is it over a year now?
Actually, just over 2.
2 years, oh my goodness. My last year was a blur, so it's, just
If it
rolls
was
together.
dog years, it'd be 14. I'm retiring.
So, John, do you want to tell us about this? We want to make sure that the public is aware of this, and also as a body, congratulate you and your incredible work.
One thing that the city has always had is an investment policy. There are certain guidelines that the city has to follow, mandated by the state of Michigan, but we also had employed some of our own additional caps to protect our monies and to make sure they're invested wisely and safely. And what we decided to do is we indicated that this policy is outdated. It was very much a buy and hold, let's get CDs and hang on to them as long as we can. Well, it offers maybe the safety, but no flexibility, so the liquidity kind of went away. So we had to change that. And so with Levi Bolt, our investment analyst, and Scott Buer, the three of us sat down and started working with our investment advisor, George Viet out of Asset Strategies, to craft a policy that would actually allow us the safety, the liquidity, and the yield. So we have that safety and flexibility. We hired investment managers to manage our money, and that program is becoming wildly successful. But through the whole process, what we wanted to do as well is craft our city investment policy so that it could pass a certification standard. And so the Association of Public Treasurers of the United States and Canada has that certification program. So we submitted our investment policy. It was reviewed by 3 experts in their field that work with that group. And we then were awarded an certificate of excellence for that investment policy. The nice thing also is that we receive feedback on what things we might want to improve on as well. So in the coming year, we've provided that data to our investment advisor, and we're then going to look at maybe doing some changes in the upcoming year. So we're further strengthening what that policy looks like. And maybe there weren't gaps per se, but just an area that they want some more clarification and maybe some further definition. So it was really an outstanding work by Levi and Scott with his experience and how we work together to create that new policy and put that in place over something that had been in place for the past 14, 15 years. So we needed to have that updated.
Well, I want to say congratulations, but also thank you for all of your incredible work. It's been great having you in this position, and I can personally say, and I'll give my colleagues an opportunity to speak as well, how much we've appreciated your willingness to just look at everything anew and look at ways that we can improve. Also, I know that you're one of probably the hardest workers in this city, maybe next to the city manager, but every weekend when I'm in, I see your vehicle right in front of mine, and very often we're here working late and working on the weekends, and it shows in all of the great things that you've been able to do, and your commitment to making sure that the community can interact with the city in a really meaningful way is greatly appreciated. So thank you. This honor is well deserved.
Thank you very much.
All right, Commissioners. So next, before us, I have a travel request. So many of you know I'm on the National Steering Committee for the Mayor's Innovation Project, and we have 2 meetings a year. The next one is coming up in August. I'm on the Planning Committee for that as well. And so I would like to ask for permission to travel to the MIP Summer Meeting, which is August 25th to 27th in Berkeley, California. So can I get a motion for that?
So moved.
Support.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, it carries. And then when I get back, I know in the past, I bring back information for everyone, and we've moved to having all of the information shared on a flash drive, so I'll make sure that each of you get that when I return. But it's probably one of the best conferences I've had the opportunity to attend. I'm a little biased because I helped plan it. It's true. I get to help pick the topics, and so I'm a little biased. And then next on our agenda, before we get to our first presentation today, I want to welcome our new fire chief, John Layman. So maybe Mary Beth, if you want to come up and share a few words, and then I just want to give Chief Layman an opportunity to say a few words and introduce himself. I know we all met him at the reception, but we want to formally welcome you to our city. We're glad to have you.
Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners and City Manager. I feel so good because when employees are doing excellent, and I remember when they were in interviews, like John, remember the obstacle course I put him through? When we do a great job of recruiting, it pays off. It's a hard process, and of course, John, I've heard an earful already for the fire chief, but it pays off, I think, in the end result with excellence. And so I do present to you, and I have signed, sealed, and delivered our new fire chief employment agreement. He's the first executive that I've hired when I said, "Congratulations, John." He says, "Well, congratulations to you." And I said, "Why are you congratulating me?" And he says, "Because you hired a great employee." So, I mean, what can we say? He is from the great state of Illinois, city of Aurora. He has over 30 years in fire service, and as a fire chief, really good, solid experience. He comes to us really ready and eager to do great things, and I would introduce John Layman.
Thank you. And thank you to the city manager and the council for your input and in the selection process, and I do think it was a good decision. I'm eager to get started. I have a start date of the 27th of June, but I've been here and working since 3:30 a.m. yesterday, and I haven't stopped, and I will be here through the city commission meeting tonight. I've met with most of the staff at the fire department. I haven't gotten around to the stations yet, but very excited to get to work, and you've got an incredible department there that I will be managing, and I look forward to that. But the city of Grand Rapids has been nothing but very, very kind and giving to inviting to me, and I look forward to my family coming here and relocating, and I'm excited about the opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and welcome.
Welcome.
Clap again. I'm good. Yes.
Happy, hey.
We are happy. If Mary Beth is happy, we are happy. So, all right. So next, we're going to get to our agenda, and the first thing on our agenda is a presentation from the Kent County Land Bank.
Good morning.
Good morning, David.
Good morning, Mayor Bliss, city staff, and commissioners. We have a quick PowerPoint on our 2016 tax foreclosures. Cue that up here real quick.
So,
Okay.
and I'm sorry, we should probably have you introduce yourself formally. So,
David DeVelder, Director of Real Estate Development, Kent County Land Bank. Thank you.
welcome. And this is an annual, colleagues, this is an annual presentation we do that we've been doing since we started partnering with the Land Bank.
Yes. So this will be the first presentation. We'll have another presentation after we complete our work on this year's tax foreclosures. So this year we have already gotten in all the properties that were foreclosed in the city of Grand Rapids. There's 43 total, 27 single-family homes, 2 multifamily properties, 5 occupied homes by tenants right now, 2 proposed for demolition, 10 buildable lots and 2 non-buildable lots. So this year our focus will be on providing affordable homes to the market and doing probably more renovations ourselves and doing that in as quick a manner as possible to bring properties to market with the lack of inventory in the market right now.
And David, just to interject, if I don't have the numbers in front of me, but this is the fewest properties we've had since we started this partnership.
Yep.
Is that right?
Yep. So since 2013, when we took all the properties, numbers were in the 150 range, and so now last year they were 100, so we're about half that this year.
Great. Thank you.
Yep. So
That's great news. Absolutely. Sorry, did I not convey that well? This is good news.
Yeah.
Fewer homes in foreclosure is a very good news.
So we wanted to show a couple pictures of the renovation project we did last year at 138 Alger. It was a tax foreclosure on the list last year, and this was the most extensive renovation that we've done to date. And we thank Commissioner Schaefer for being able to come out there to celebrate that with us. So here's a before picture of the property before we started. and after. Significant change.
I told him.
Kitchen before, kitchen after. Granite countertops, ceramic tile. We try to really make our homes nice for the market, and this property was listed for $199,000. It is currently pending sale after less than a week on the market.
David, remind me again how much we invested in redevelopment?
Hard cost construction, $140,000 was our contract with our general contractor. So this is the front living room in the home, and after. It's a nice fireplace in there too. Hallway going back to the kitchen. You can see the kitchen floor there the home was severely distressed. This is the downstairs bathroom. Upstairs bathroom, pretty rough. This was a back sunroom that we converted into a master bedroom. There's the after there. And the property had a natural gas explosion in the basement, so there was a pretty significant foundation problem in the center of the home, which we fixed. So we plan to do more renovations this year like that. And we're also going to be focusing on our single-family lots. We have been holding them for about the last 6 months and not selling any of them to try to increase a large percentage of properties, vacant lots, that we can bring to market all at once. Currently, we have 63 buildable lots that will begin marketing in July, and we'll be screening those just like we do our homes to try to get the highest and best use for new construction there on our lots. So, any questions?
I have a question, David. So for the buildable lots, can we, fortunately I wasn't at the last land bank meeting, but can we require that these be affordable homes that are built?
For our vacant lots?
Yeah, vacant lots. So let's say someone wants to build a rental property, can we mandate that it's affordable?
We certainly would hope so. Yeah, I mean, that would be the best outcome we would hope for. We would probably stipulate that in, in any materials that we provide on our website or in our listings, that we'd be looking for that. And I think that'd be achievable. I mean, a lot of the single-family homes that we've renovated all are tend to be serving, around 100% area median income. So we certainly achieve that same thing in new construction.
Okay.
With a lot of our properties, most of our land cost is fairly minimal. Amount of back taxes, so that certainly helps keep the cost down.
Nice. Commissioner?
Well, and I would imagine that in a typical scenario, a land cost is, somewhere for residential real estate, somewhere in the 30% range of the total cost of a project. So I imagine urban infill lots in the city are typically lower in cost than, say, a suburban development lot that's, $30,000 to $50,000. So I would hope that just having a lower land cost would contribute to the affordability factor of the property in comparison.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's right. Commissioner?
I have a question, too, whether the land bank has thought of holding a land lease so that it retains its affordability over time.
Holding ownership to the
Right.
leasing the land like
trust.
a community land trust.
Right.
Well, I love land trusts. I think they're a great model to bridge the gap between rental and ownership. So I would really invite us to look at that. I think it's a wonderful way to increase home ownership, and the land bank is a perfect vehicle for that.
Well,
So
we
I would certainly
encourage you to
support
take
that.
a look at that.
Yeah, and we have looked at that in the past over the years, and there is quite a bit of work that needs to be done to set something up like that. So we would need to partner with nonprofits and the city in that regard to really, launch something like that. But it would provide long-term affordable housing,
Right.
And it would allow folks to gain equity in a very affordable way to do that. So, yeah,
Commissioner
support
O'Connor?
that.
Well, and I also hope, just as we discussed in the affordable housing work session the other day, that I imagine some of these lots, or a lot of these lots, are urban infill lots, traditional neighborhood lots. One of the things we talked about was the ability to increase density on those lots to allow more units to be built on smaller lots. So I think as a city, that's one thing that we can do to help. If we're looking to really bring affordability, we need to allow people to build some denser properties on these small lots, because some of these lots are very hard to develop because of the setback requirements and whatnot that are contained within our current zoning code. So we need to do some things to allow people to maybe build multiple unit properties in traditional neighborhoods. Might make that a little bit easier.
Yeah. Which I know you and Commissioner Schaefer just worked on with the Westside project, so.
Yeah, we very much support that. Thanks.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yeah, I would echo that. I think that as far as making these lots affordable, we have a lot of control over how we set up our zoning, and that I think you're looking at construction costs being the cost to construct as it is to put on a vacant lot. So the only way to really get that overall down, unless you're going to have a tax abatement tied to it, or the land is free, which it won't be because that's the way it goes out to the market, is that you're going to need that to have more people per square foot be able to live there, to keep that cost down, because the cost per square foot for the construction is what it is. So I think it just speeds up even more what we probably need to do to kind of look at our neighborhoods and how we set those up for multifamily.
Yeah, question about that.
Yes.
Would it be possible, and I don't know if you're the person to ask or our city attorney, that we use NEZ for that, should we look at these 63 and focus on affordability, that would be an area for, it's a scattered site, we could perhaps employ that tool for an abatement.
It's something that we could look into with staff as an incentive, I think is what you're saying.
Yeah.
As long as it doesn't supersede the state requirements. We can't add additional requirements beyond what the state statute requires.
So there are two types of NEZ, and I'll try to get it right. I see Kira in the back if I don't. But one NEZ is a type we've been doing for mixed-use developments that can be site-specific and doesn't require a neighborhood approach. And then there are the traditional NEZs that we've done that have essentially been rooted in a neighborhood, so which is a larger area than just one parcel. So, and those are how we've been able to address single-family homes.
Yeah.
So it's a little more complicated than the site-specific approach we've been taking on the mixed use.
Well, and I think this is perfect timing, because we'll have another work session next month to continue our discussion on affordable housing. And I think looking at, the land bank's priority, as David said earlier, was their focus this year is to really look at affordable housing and bring in affordable-ready homes onto the market. And so I think this is very much aligned with our priorities and goals as a commission and as a city.
So we'll take a look at it. I just wanted you to know the difference.
Yeah,
So,
no,
okay,
it's a tool in the toolbox.
Yep, thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions for David? Go ahead.
Well, just really appreciate the work that you're doing, David. We're really excited about how you're also willing to transition as the market transitions.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
Yeah, moving over to vacant land is going to be really, really important. And I've been doing this a long time, and we're really passionate about improving the housing quality stock and providing affordable housing in a very creative way. So we certainly hope we have the city's support in moving as fast as we can to accomplish that. So I know there's zoning that we have to deal with. We have a really good zoning code, but we are going to have to make some changes to allow for some smaller homes and some accessory units and so forth. So we really just hope that that's a priority, because the market is going to move fast. So we need to respond quickly.
Yeah. So that is a priority. We talked about that briefly in our last work session, was what we need to do around zoning. So.
Well, and I might also add that I appreciate the efforts that you've made into expanding your contractor base, and that Commissioner Jones and I will be meeting with the ISD. They have a licensed builder that oversees their students about the possibility of working side by side with Habitat, and that might be an option for you. I know GRCC does this, and if we can add others to that.
Well, and David, you might want to add, I know this is really focused on the properties, but you might want to add some of the work that the Land Bank has done to support organizations in our community and to work with organizations like Next Step and Building Bridges and Wedgwood. Do you want to just speak to that, a little bit of the focus we have in being intentional about the partners we work with?
Yeah, so I've worked with Bethany Christian Services Building Bridges Division for many years, and Next Step as well, since they've been formed, and we'll continue to keep a focus on that, trying to mentor them into looking at new construction. Certainly they do a lot of our maintenance, and we also bring in other smaller contractors, minority contractors into the mix, so that we're making sure that we provide as many opportunities as possible to those smaller companies that sometimes don't have the know-how to be able to bid. And I guess the golden nugget would be to try to get them involved at a higher level, building bridges as an example, into the construction efforts, because they do want to do that and they're gearing up to do that. That's going to be important to, because we have a golden opportunity here with a lot of work ahead of us to build on these properties. And we have interest, but the biggest challenge is going to be getting the construction done in a timely manner and as affordable as possible. Construction costs are very high right now, but it is an opportunity, and I think the city could partner with us in that as far as providing just support, I guess, and just getting the word out that we have this opportunity. So, and we'll have a lot of work to do in that, and we're willing to manage that as much as we need to accomplish that. So,
thank you. Any other questions? All right. Thank you. Thanks for your work. Kira, anything you wanted to add? No? Okay. All right, so that will take us to our next item, which is a resolution approving a request from HP3 LLC, which is the JW Marriott Grand Rapids, for a temporary authorization outdoor service permit in connection with their JDEC summer event. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Support. Okay, welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So the JW Marriott Grand Rapids applied on May 5th for a temporary outdoor service permit in connection with their JDEK summer event to be held on Saturday, July 2nd. It's going to be from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m., and the event will extend onto the city sidewalks adjacent to the JW Marriott. The application has been reviewed by all departments and is being recommended for approval.
Great. Any questions? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, it carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is a resolution authorizing bringing to, possessing, and consuming alcohol in Cherry Park for their summer series event.
So moved.
Support.
Okay. Yvette, you want to talk to us about this? Yvette Pittman?
Good morning. So the East Hills Council of Neighbors is applying to have an event at the Cherry Park. Summer events is a series of events. We do require insurance for these events. They expect about 100 people. The Parks Department and I are researching these type of events in other cities, and we hope to have some guidelines that we want to bring before City Commission this summer yet.
Great. And thank you. A question I had about this was just to make sure that as organizations or neighborhood associations plan these events, we want to make sure that they have liability insurance for those events, and that's a requirement and part of their application and permit.
Absolutely.
Okay. Questions, commissioners? Oh, Commissioner Allen?
Not a question, but a comment. I'm happy to see something like this come forward. I'm happy also to hear that we're going to put some guidelines around it, because we do need to be smart as a city, but I think the more we offer these kind of opportunities, the more vibrant our city becomes. All events don't just have to be downtown. We have a lot of really cool neighborhood parks where things like this can happen, and I think it's a great first start.
Absolutely. Let me go to Commissioner Jones.
I just want to extend an invitation to all my colleagues to come on over to the neighborhood of Commissioner Kelly and I. It does not require you to take part in alcohol consumption, but we just want to extend the invitation. We'd love to see all of you on Wednesday. Starts next Wednesday, by the way.
And it's really fun, and they have great music. Bring a chair. City Manager, and then Commissioner Lanier.
Following up on the comments, I've heard from a few of you commissioners that are interested in a policy that might be different than what we currently have concerning alcohol consumption in our park. So we will be doing some research and coming back to you with that.
Yeah. Thank you. We want to make sure it's very thoughtful and that we are looking at all potential liability and risks. So. Commissioner Lanier?
Just a quick clarifying question. I almost spilled coffee. So the permit is only being allowed on the dates listed in the memo, correct?
Correct.
So I wonder if there is a way to make sure that it's spelled out a little bit more, because in some ways it could be interpreted as this period of time versus only these events. So probably, maybe not necessarily with this one, but maybe in future memos, just specify only the dates that are listed or something like that. I think it will bring a little bit more clarity.
Okay, will do.
Yeah, I think it should absolutely include date and time frame.
Yeah.
So that that's really clear as well.
Yep.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, it carries. All right, our next item is a resolution authorizing our fiscal year 2017 service provision fees. Can I get a motion for that?
So moved.
Support.
All right, and we had a public hearing about this at our last commission meeting.
We did. Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners.
Yeah.
So this is the third and final step in the approval of the annual fee resolution. So you had the fees proposed or presented on May 10th. There was a public hearing on May 24th, and this, if you go forward, will adopt the fees for our FY17 fiscal year beginning July 1st.
Questions, commissioners? Okay, all right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, it carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your work on that. And for all the work you did in breaking it down differently for us. Thank you.
Yes.
And so next, our fifth agenda item is a resolution executing a parking operations agreement with the Grand Rapids Public Museum. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Support.
All right, we have Josh Nearmore here to talk to us about this.
Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. So included in your packet, back in September of 2013, the Parking Services Department, the city, and the Grand Rapids Public Museum entered into an agreement so that the city could begin operating their 217-space parking ramp. And this was in an effort to streamline the costs to the museum so that we can operate or offer some efficiencies by integrating it into the parking system. And so at that time, that included an administrative fee of $15,000 billed to them monthly, as well as the cost for recovering the services that the city encumbers for managing their facility, and then the rest of the revenue is passed through to the museum itself. Both the city and the museum have expressed interest in continuing that agreement. So before you is a renewal of that agreement, as well as annually the city provides the museum with a copy of the next upcoming fiscal year budget for the facility for what costs they can expect to consider. So with that, just bringing this forward for a 3-year renewal.
Great. Commissioners, questions? No? Okay, wonderful. I'll call the question then. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, so next, our item number 6 is a resolution approving a Brownfield plan amendment under Act 381 of 1996 for the Quimby Corner LLC redevelopment project, which is located at 1432 and 1438 Plainfield Avenue and 220 and 226 Quimby Street. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Support.
All right, Kara, you want to talk to us about this? I should say we did have a public hearing related to this project.
We did. We held a public hearing. This is the final consideration of the resolution that would approve the Brownfield plan amendment for this project that includes the construction of 44 market rate rental units, ground floor retail space along with commercial space, and 30 on-site parking spaces. This project is about $11.3 million in total. 16 jobs will be retained in the city and 25 new jobs are expected to be created as a result of this project. The developer is seeking reimbursement of $495,000 worth of eligible activities over an 8-year period.
All right, I'll turn to my second ward commissioners. I know Commissioner Kelly has been actively engaged with the North Quarter and Plainfield corridor and the redevelopment of that business district. So do you want to add anything to this?
Well, just that the Neighborhood Association and the SID Board have both approved this, and they're looking forward to repurposing these buildings and adding some density in this neighborhood. It's really coming alive. We just had Little Lucy's open up, and it looks like there'll be another restaurant in the Cheshire area, so we're seeing a lot of activity. Oh, and a brewery coming up, of course.
Oh, yeah, that one, that little one.
So, yeah, we're just excited about the revitalization of all these corridors, especially around infill and repurposing of buildings. And this is one of those projects.
Yeah, absolutely. Commissioner Jones?
Just defer to Commissioner Kelly. I think she hit the nail on the head. The one thing I will add, though, however, is the amount of dialogue that has taken place with not just the neighborhood association, but also with the developer about the project. And I think it also speaks to what we as a body have been talking about moving forward in terms of incentives and trying to make sure that we are as wise as can be with regards to our future work with incentives.
Yeah, excellent point. All right, any other questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, it carries. Thank you, Carrie. Carrie, you're up here with us for a while, so don't go too far. But before we get to item number 8, we have item number 7. And this is a salary ordinance for non-representative and executive employees of the city of Grand Rapids. And commissioners, I just passed out to you before the beginning of the meeting, CW7 revised.
Yeah.
So I'm going to make a motion to actually consider an amendment because we caught something that needed to be changed from the time that we got the information in our packet last week to this morning. And so inadvertently, there was a position that was left off, so we need to add the position of managing director. So I am going to go ahead and I should pull it up first and then make the motion, correct, City Attorney? Okay, so can I get a motion first to get this on the table, and then I'll make I'll ask for an amendment. Okay, great. All those in favor of bringing it, well, no, now I have to go to amendment?
Yes.
So can I get support for an amendment to add the position of managing director?
So moved.
Support.
Okay, so now we have the amended revised version before us up for discussion. So Mary Beth, do you want to speak to this?
Mayor, I just find the irony quite overpowering. What is your title, Mary Beth?
Managing director. So I definitely appreciate you all doing that. How that ever happened escapes me to leave our classification off, given the fact that I'm here to present, Mayor and Commissioners, the salary ordinance for the wage increases for the non-representative group of which managing director is a part of. As you know, consistent with the bargaining units that thus far have settled, this is a very good and generous package that has been approved by the commission and submitted by the city manager on behalf of the non-reps. We do appreciate it. It is consistent in that it's a 2% increase effective July 1st, 2016, 2.25% wage increase July 1, 2017, and a 2% increase July 1, 2018. And the revision was to add the managing director classification.
Great. Commissioners, questions?
I have none.
Nothing? So again, this is aligned with the other contracts that we've recently approved.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And the only revision is the addition of that title. All right, so I'm going to call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Mary Beth. All right, so our next item, Committee of the Whole, item number 8, is a resolution approving the fiscal year 2017 budget of the City of Grand Rapids Uptown Corridor Improvement District Authority. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Support. All right, so Kara?
This is the Uptown Corridor Improvement District Authority budget for the FY17 fiscal year. This includes revenues associated with FY17 of $38,266. The authority plans to make use of this revenue plus some previous year fund balance for eligible programs and marketing. In this fiscal year, they also expect to pay 4 years of payments toward their trash receptacles in which the city is a partner, and should be complete in the next couple of years. So in front of you today is a budget that they have recommended to you for your approval.
So, I'm sorry, Kara, for the trash, they're getting 4 years, they're paying 4 years worth of their
Yes.
debt? Okay.
Yep.
Great. I'm so glad to hear that. Commissioner Jones, you serve on the Uptown SID. You want to add anything?
Just that we are, I think, progressing nicely. I know that it's a very engaged board, and they are super excited about the activity that's occurring in Uptown and all the new development that's in place. And again, looking at ways in which we can, I think, be even more inclusive as a district. And so, no, just again, very progressive board.
Great. Any other questions or comments about their budget? No. Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, next is item number 9, and that's a resolution approving the fiscal year 2017 budget of the City of Grand Rapids Uptown Business Improvement District Authority.
So moved.
Support.
So this is the Uptown Special Assessment District. They plan to bill property owners $97,207 in FY17. Of this amount, a portion comes from the property owners, and $10,000 of that is voluntary from nonprofit and governmental partners. This special assessment represents a small increase from last year. This is their 4th year of special assessing their property owners, and the increase is due to the approved rate increase to meet the increasing costs of providing services within the district. This fund complements the previous budget that you just approved, and this is before you for consideration as well.
Okay. Great. Questions, comments? All right, I'm going to go ahead and call the question then. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. That will take us to item number 10. This is a resolution approving the fiscal year 2017 budget for the City of Grand Rapids Madison Square, or also known as Southtown, Corridor Improvement District Authority.
So moved. So moved.
Support.
All right, great. Kara, tell us about this.
So at the, for the FY17 fiscal year, there is no tax increment revenue expected to be collected within the district boundaries this year. This is due to the creation of the exempt manufacturing personal property classification, which went into effect for the first time this year. It's expected that we will come back to you with a future amendment to reflect updated information regarding the impact of certain changes expected to be allowed for industrial personal property exemptions that could improve their budget outlook this year. However, the authority proposes to use the estimated amount in their fund balance, so they do have a small budget request before you for $2,326.
Great. Commissioner Lanier, you want to talk about this?
Yeah, just one quick question about how soon do you think we will come back with the amendment?
I'm not sure. It could be a couple of months.
Okay. Thank you. That's all.
And we're in the process of identifying board members and getting that board in a good place. And so that will give us a little bit of time to do that as well.
Absolutely.
Good. All right. Any questions or comments? Commissioner Allen?
Just 2 quick comments. The adoption of the expansion from Madison to Southtown, we're already starting to see the effect of that. I got called to a meeting with the newly formed or reformed Seymour Square Business Association, which had been defunct for they don't even know how long. And sitting at the table amongst business owners that hadn't been across from each other at a table like that was really exciting. We're already getting some PIFs come forward from people wanting to be on the board, which is a good thing. So I'm excited to see where this is about to go. I think, and I think the resetting of the SEV through the expansion is very important. And then the last thing, it hasn't really been mentioned, but I think it bears mentioning how the name Southtown came to be, and I think it's good to kind of have that on record. It was a really long process of interviewing neighbors in and around the Madison Square neighborhood and business owners, longtime business owners, and all they ever talked about was South High School and how important South High School was to the fabric of that neighborhood. And so to rename those neighborhood business districts Southtown, and really the neighborhood Southtown, was an homage to South High School and how important it was to the community. And if you see the signs that are there, they have all skin tone reflections in dots, and that was, again, a reflection of the diversity that's come to that neighborhood. So there's a lot of meaning behind that, and I think that's been lost sometime in some of the discussion. It's good to bring that back up.
Yeah. I thank you for sharing that. That is There's so many great things that I think it's hard to articulate and capture that come out of SIDS. But I think that's definitely one, as you sit and think about, what is this neighborhood, what does it mean to us? What does it represent? And then being able to capture that in some of the marketing, I think has been really effective. So, thank you both for your work on this. All right, any other questions, comments? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, it carries. All right, that will take us to Committee of the Whole, item number 11, and this is a resolution approving the fiscal year 2017 budget for the City of Grand Rapids, their North Quarter Corridor Improvement District.
So moved.
Support.
The same is true for North Quarter, no new tax increment revenues until we bring back a future amendment. So they are requesting to use a portion of their estimated fund balance to support the administration and projects within the district boundaries over the next fiscal year and reserving a portion for future years. So this appropriation request is for $11,000.
Any questions, comments?
Yeah, just a comment that it was very interesting discussion that we had. Of course, we're hoping that there will be a positive budget amendment coming up, but that the group is already looking at setting aside fund balances for their future, which I think is good. We don't have much money now, so maybe it's a little premature. It's easy to make amendments, and the other thing that I'd like to mention is that as we begin to, as we bring on a staff person to work with the corridors, that I think Commissioner Jones and I had a good discussion with some residents in the Michigan Street corridor area about how it's really time to look at very closely at leakage, and I hope that person can do that so that we can create a balance within these corridors of what residents will actually need and shop, look for. So we don't have money flowing out of the city, but staying in the city, and that we can begin to bring in the amenities that people really truly need and will use, so that we also then therefore create a very walkable community. So all of those goals, I think we can begin to really begin to reach now. I'm very excited about this corridor management person, and I believe that Dyer Ives has some work in this area, Metro Edge.
I was going to say, this reminds me of sitting in a room when I was on the board of LISC.
Yeah.
And we were looking at what Chicago had done around doing exactly that, using data to drive decision-making about what small businesses could and would be successful in certain districts. And that work leading to all the work that's gone into Metro Edge. And I feel like we haven't necessarily as a community really utilized that as a resource as we look to helping small businesses be successful in certain areas, and being able to be really honest and say, there's a saturation of that in this district, but over here there's a real need, and being more intentional about using that data in an effective way.
Yeah, and Mayor, I would like to suggest that once this person gets hired and settled in, that we might want to use these chambers and invite these boards in and really have a thorough discussion so that it's on the radar right off the bat, and that we are taking full advantage of that, because it will have great economic implications for the city and just make these corridors more livable and walkable.
I think that's an excellent point, and it leads to a discussion some of us have had as well. And I think with having all of the SID budgets before us today, it's important for us to also talk about training of board members. And I know we've talked a little bit with the city attorney's office about that, but we need to make sure that the individuals around these tables are well trained. They know what the law says, they know what the statute says, that they have a clear understanding of conflict of interest. And so we have some work to do, and I think that's a great idea, is to bring all the board members together. And we're looking at doing that with other boards and commissions as well. But we really need to do that with our SIDS and BIDs to make sure that we have well-trained, educated individuals around those tables who really know the law and the expectations. So we'll have Kara follow up on that with our city attorney, although I know that you're both working on it already. All right, any other questions about the North Quarter? All right, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, next that will take us to Committee of the Whole, item number 12, and this is a resolution approving the fiscal year 2017 budget for the City of Grand Rapids Westside Corridor Improvement District Authority.
So moved.
Support.
All right.
The situation is the same for the Westside SID. There is no tax increment revenue expected to be collected until we bring back a future amendment. The authority does propose to use their estimated fund balance to support the operations and projects within the district boundaries over the next fiscal year. So you have an appropriation request for $89.92.
Okay, and Commissioner Schaefer, you serve on this. You want to share any additional input?
Sure. You know, the first draft of the budget that we saw had some nice revenue, which is good, but also looked at a project at Fulton and Seward, which I think once we see those projects come back online and back to our SIDS, which is why we really have set these in place, so, you know, really shows what we can do long term. So we had some had a great meeting where we visioned some large signature projects that we can help do, and I think we'll get back to that, but it was really good to see what that future growth will be, and I think what we'll see in the next decade with our SIDS, we don't necessarily see that now, but as these projects get built and once that abatement comes back, we'll really start to see some impact to do some large-scale projects. So that was really our talk before we got our revised budget here. So.
All right, any other questions? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, it carries. All right, and next that will take us to Committee of the Whole, item number 13, and this is a resolution approving the fiscal year 2017 budget for the City of Grand Rapids, Michigan Street Corridor Improvement District Authority.
So moved.
Support.
Okay.
This is the first year of capture for the Michigan Street Corridor Improvement District Authority, and unfortunately, there is no capture this year and no fund balance to pull forward from prior years. However, this SID does work closely with the Michigan Street Corridor Association, whose membership dues will be used in part to support their marketing efforts over the next year. So we have a zero budget for you to approve.
All right.
No.
That's all right.
This is easy.
Questions? Comments? It's an easy budget to support. All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. And Kara, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. So, you know, as we talk about SIDS and especially bids, can you talk a little bit about the value and importance of these? I know there's been questions raised in the past. I know each of us have these discussions with people we represent about how this is an opportunity to capture dollars, keep them local, drive decision down to the grassroots level, and really make some incredible investments in districts that for a long time didn't have access to resources. But can you elaborate a little bit and where you see from your perspective as an economic development director the value of having SIDS and bids in our community?
Sure. So there is the financial aspect, and preserving those resources for those districts is important. You're empowering them to invest those dollars the way they would want to see them invested. There are also the other benefits that are not so financial and intangible. In fact, you have a more engaged citizen group in these business districts now. They're empowered to make decisions, put together plans, seek your approval of those plans, and then execute on them. They're all volunteers, so they do spend tireless hours working toward the outcomes that the plans deliver, which is unusual. And now that they're starting to gain financial resources, it's empowering them even more. It does take time for these things to build. Our DID downtown and our DDA have been around for many years, and these are very early stages for the Corridor Improvement District authorities. But I think over time, we'll find that we'll have a more engaged citizenry at the business district level, which is really important to the city in terms of getting citizen engagement and feedback.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And I think for all of us, as we look at some of these SIDS and bids that are newer, we can look to our oldest SID and bid, which is Uptown. And if you look at Uptown, where it is now compared to where it was 10 or even 12 years ago, you can see significant differences. And as you said, a much more engaged, active, not just neighborhood business district. There's 4 neighborhood business districts in Uptown, but also the residents as well. So thank you, Kara.
Yeah, and Mayor, may I just add
Go
that
ahead,
I think that the budget that we set up for the SIDS and bids next year speaks to the importance of what you just talked about, and also offers some encouragement to those groups that says the city is on board and we do value what we're doing. And I think, too, that what Uptown did with the trash receptacles is a good example of how we can begin in the future to look at, as they have some money in their budgets, to leverage that together to do some improvements in the city. So very locally focused improvements.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Any other comments? All right, that's going to take us, I called the question on that. I did, okay. Next is item number 14, and this is a resolution approving the fiscal year 2017 budget of the City of Grand Rapids Smartzone Local Development Finance Authority. Can I get a motion?
Mayor, before you go forward, did we vote on the last one?
We did, didn't we?
I didn't.
The clerk should.
Clerk?
I'm showing that we did.
Yeah.
Okay.
I called the question and then I asked.
Okay, that's what threw me. Okay. Just wanted to
Sorry
make
about
sure.
that.
No
I am
problem.
throwing us off a little bit. I just felt like at the end of approving all of those, maybe talking a little bit about SIDS and bids.
Got it. Got it. Thank you.
So sorry about that. Okay, so item before us, can I get a motion for the Smartzone Local Development Authority?
Moved.
Support.
Okay. Carrie, you want to talk about this?
Yes, hopefully the budget presentation from last week is still fresh in your mind. This is the Smartzone Local Development Finance Authority budget for your consideration, which we hope will also require a future amendment to reflect updated information regarding the impact of personal property exemptions. The expenditures in this FY17 budget provide for the support of the business acceleration, activity, and incubation services for high-tech businesses through a contract with Start Garden. Also, we have a contract with the Right Place, which will allow company participation and presence at national and international medical device trade shows, and also continued administration of the existing program planned infrastructure projects within the Certified Technology Park.
Okay, we've had a lot of discussion on this. We had a public hearing about a month ago. We had additional information presented. We are making some changes with the MOU, really trying to leverage public dollars with private dollars. Any questions? Commissioner Lanier?
I do, and so perhaps when I was in Chicago last week, some of this was discussed, but I'm, and forgive me for not knowing some of this, but I'm curious a little bit about the structure of the Smartzone now that it's been expanded. Is there an oversight committee or something like that that's created, and will there be more people able to participate in that now that there is an expansion? That's one question. The other is connected to Start Garden as well as the Right Place being two of the entities that we have a partnership with to try and encourage entrepreneurship in the Smartzone. So I'm curious to know if, in light of the expansion, if we're looking at other organizations to be able to provide that. And then the last question is connected to the $725,000 that is allocated to Start Garden. Is that annually we do that? How much in totality have we allocated for Start Garden, and what do we do? What do we get in exchange for $725,000 in one fiscal year?
So the first question about the committee, we don't have a committee established. There was a committee established in order to work on the plan amendment. So currently we don't have another committee overseeing other activities at this point. That was disbanded as a result of the plan amendment being approved. In terms of contractors, we do expect that as a result of the expansion that we will be working with other partners to identify opportunities to make investments in activities that will support the growth of high-tech businesses in our neighborhoods in those areas that we added to the district. So that is ongoing, and we're already starting to have those conversations already. As it relates to the Start Garden contract, that is an annual amount for services. It's approximately roughly about the same amount that we had under contract with GVSU when they were providing the services as well. So that is a 12-month contract amount for the services they're providing. They're working one-on-one with entrepreneurs and providing them the concierge service they need to get to the resources that they are seeking or need at any given time. And they'll continue to do all the tracking and reporting with the state of Michigan, which is required on a monthly basis, that will allow us to maintain our Smartzone status with the state.
And Kara, maybe you can elaborate. There's a Commissioner. There's a lengthy MOU with Start Garden between the Smartzone, and it breaks out all of the different activities. But it also shows the amount that is contributed from Smartzone, but then also money that they are raising from the private community to leverage. But there are some very specific requirements and goals, and there's reporting requirements with the state of Michigan, and the Smartzone board, which is appointed, that that is diverse and makes up different partners, the board will also be reviewing the outcomes to make sure that they're meeting the outcomes. But I think, if I remember, I don't have it in front of me, there's a spreadsheet that lays out exactly the activities, but it's everything from supporting accelerators, reaching out to entrepreneurs, providing education, working in partnership with other organizations. So there's specific language about working with others and reaching out to different communities to really provide support, but then also to better coordinate the ecosystem. And Kara, jump in if I'm
No, you're
not
absolutely correct.
saying it accurately. But there's been a lot of discussion about startups, new businesses, small business owners, entrepreneurs, not really being a little bit overwhelmed by all of the different organizations in our community trying to support entrepreneurs and startups. So part of this is going to try to be to better coordinate that ecosystem so that there's no wrong door that people can walk through. And then also a big piece of this is capturing that data. And we've talked a lot about not just capturing outputs. I don't want to know just how many people walk through your door. I want to know that because you had contact with them, they're more successful. So we're trying to identify what can we do to really capture outcomes and the impact that those services have on the individuals and the businesses. And they're in the process of doing that right now and coming up with a system to try to do that in a more efficient way, because it's a little difficult right now to capture that data.
Okay. So if we are, so I heard two things. One of them was that there isn't a board, but then I thought I heard
there's the
you
Smartzone.
So that was the board I was referencing. Is that going to now be expanded because we've expanded the boundaries?
No, legislatively, we're allowed a certain number of board members. Those seats are currently filled, but as they turn over, we'll try to, start incorporating folks from the other boundaries.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's guided by state statute.
Sure. Okay. So that's good to know. So there is one, and we'll consider that. The other thing is, Kira, you mentioned that you are planning and having discussions for more partners. Is this budget reflective of embracing more partners? Would we have to make amendments? Should we have allocated all of the dollars and then, have a new partner and then not have any way of giving them any compensation for their work? Where's the line item that kind of speaks to that?
So there is some flexibility within this budget, but we will be coming back likely with a recommendation or an amendment in a couple of months. But if you look under, let's see here. Under infrastructure improvements, we have infrastructure to be determined. We also have some under committed and ongoing appropriations. There is some flexibility within the budget to enter into contracts with others. We don't have any identified at this point, so there was really no way for us to adequately estimate what those would be. So we only have those named in here that we are currently aware of.
Okay, thank you.
Just want to make note of the fact that I know that they are making a very intentional and a very aggressive effort, robust effort to engage entrepreneurs of color in particular, as seeing that as very much a priority. And so that was something that there's been a lot of discussion around that, because there really isn't any vehicle that's available that is helping to engage entrepreneurs of color. And so to their credit, I know Start Garden is going above and beyond and really trying to engage that market in particular. So,
thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner?
I have a question for you, Mayor or Kara. Is this agreement also going to focus at all on makerspace? Because you've been talking about the importance of that.
I just had a meeting this morning at 7 a.m. talking about makerspace. Yes.
So this budget does include, we're undergoing a feasibility study for a tech shop here in Grand Rapids. They're evaluating several different locations across the city, some of which are in the Smartzone. And so we've allocated a certain amount of funds so that should we enter into an agreement and be a partner in a tech shop, we have the resources to do so.
Yeah, it's a great question, and it is a priority.
Good.
Other questions? All right, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, next that will take us to item number 15, and this is a resolution approving the fiscal year 2017 budget for the City of Grand Rapids Brownfield Redevelopment Authority.
So moved.
Support.
All right, Carrie, you want to talk to us
This is the
about
Brownfield Redevelopment Authority budget for FY17. The revenues are expected to be slightly greater than $4.2 million over the course of this year. Most of these funds get reimbursed back to developers through the projects that you see before you every meeting, it seems. So this budget will allow for the continuation of the administration of the program along with the administration of the local site remediation revolving fund, which is beginning to capitalize, and all of the developer reimbursements associated with the contracts that you enter into. In this budget recommendation, a new staff position is budgeted. This would be a dedicated position to the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority to manage the increased number of developer reimbursements, which have grown from 38 to 61 just in the last 3 years, and will continue to grow as we do more projects. This position will also be doing the required reporting to the state of Michigan, which has increased and has become a significant body of work since 2014, and we managed to keep up on it, but it's becoming quite intense. So before you is the FY17 budget request, and it has been recommended by the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority Board.
Great. And Commissioner Schaefer, you serve on that board. Do you want to speak to this?
Yeah, so that a staff add is not us actually bringing general fund subsidy in. It's still using fees, so which are within the budget that's there. So if you can, for those who are here, 5 years ago, we told this group that they do great work, but can you do it on your own? Meaning, can you do it without getting a subsidy? So they've worked very hard to become efficient at what they do, and so this is to kind of match that need that's out there. So overall, just know that that's not an increase to general fund spending when we're looking to add staff. It's really just to match the work that's charged by the fees that are in there already. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And Carrie, I'm assuming this, but I guess I'll need you to confirm it. I know that over the last couple of years, there have been changes to the Brownfield legislation in Lansing. I know that's constantly being talked about. And I believe, if I remember, some of that is around reporting and oversight. So I'm assuming that that's added some work in addition to just the uptick in development that we've had in the city.
Yes, that is correct.
Good. I'm glad I was right. All right, any other questions? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. Kara, one other piece before I call for the next resolution. In thinking about the Smartzone, since we just made some significant changes and there's still a lot of work to be done to kind of flesh out details, can you plan to come back before the commission in maybe 2 or 3 months and give us an update as some of those details are worked out? Because I think Commissioner Jones is absolutely right. There's a lot of work being done right now. Mm-hmm. And I think all of us are concerned, and we want to make sure that we're working with as many diverse partners as possible. And so can you just plan to do an update, yes. An update to the full commission on that? Thank you. Okay, so that will take us to Committee of the Whole, item number 16. This is a resolution approving the fiscal year 2017 budget for the City of Grand Rapids Economic Development Corporation.
So moved.
Support.
This FY17 budget includes revenues and expenditures associated with programs that are administered by the Economic Development Department, which includes all of the tax abatement programs, economic gardening, multicultural innovation and entrepreneurship, and new support for neighborhood business districts. We reviewed most of this in our budget review, but some of these funds will complement the work that is being done by the Smartzone. And so as we continue to do work with the Hispanic Chamber, for example, their pitch competition was recently announced and awarded. That was something that the EDC invested in because it wasn't something that the Smartzone could directly invest in.
And Commissioner Schaefer, you serve on this as well?
Yes, so very similar. These two boards work in tandem, so same report back as far as to how they're working with the fees, and again, we can see the impact of the development in the city. So excellent job to Carrie and her staff to manage their budget and also make it work well for those who are looking to do development in our city.
Yeah, Commissioner Jones?
If you could, Kara, if you could refresh my memory and expound a bit on the line item around multicultural support.
Yes. This was an amount that the general fund granted to the Economic Development Corporation last fiscal year. A request was also made for this fiscal year. And The first agreement or contract that we entered into was with the Hispanic Chamber for their Medio Dia programming. And so that was a workshop type program for Spanish-speaking entrepreneurs to participate in this training, which led then to a business plan competition, and awards were given out by sponsors. So the city invested in the training, and then the sponsors paid the actual winnings. So that was just one example of what we're planning to do more of over the next fiscal year.
Commissioner?
Quick question. Does this budget include the new position, city manager, that you were allocating in your upcoming budget?
For bid and SID support, Commissioner?
I'm sorry?
For bid and SID support?
Yes,
Yes,
it does. Should we vote on this before we vote on the actual budget? Seems like this is coming
For the
before.
appropriations here, not necessarily the position. That's what you'll vote in the entire budget.
I understand that, but it seems like this is the cart before the horse. If we haven't made a decision about the position yet.
Then the money can't be spent. We can't hire the position if you were to not approve it.
But if the budget is approved for this, if this particular budget is approved before the actual budget is approved.
That does not give me authority to fill the position until you approve the budget with the position in it.
But it'll give this budget line item amount to this budget, and we wouldn't be able to retract that in the event that the position is not approved.
Well, of course.
We can amend it.
You can always amend the budget.
Okay.
Or do we want to have that discussion right now? I mean, it's...
Sure. That's fine.
The budget is before us. We've talked a lot about economic development. We've talked about wanting to support entrepreneurs and startups and neighborhood business districts and SIDs and bids. And if it's part of this, let's have the discussion as a body. So, Commissioner Allen, did you want to?
No, I was just going to say, I'm speaking for Fiscal Committee, but it's pretty common for Fiscal Committee to make budget adjustments. So if this is approved, but then the position's not approved in the budget, we'll just see a budget amendment come back and it'll lower that amount. That's pretty common. So we can have the discussion now or have it in the budget discussion, but this does not automatically guarantee that decision. It's a pretty common that we get budget amendments on every meeting.
Okay. So, I mean, colleagues, what's your preference? Do you want to hold off on that discussion about staffing to another date and just look at this budget as presented, or do you want to have that discussion right now? Either way is fine.
Well, personally, I don't have any of my notes from the budget discussions.
Okay, then let's hold off.
So, yeah.
Okay, all right. So then let's just look at this budget, and as Commissioner Allen said, it can always be amended based on what we finalize as part of the budget process. Good?
Yeah, and I would imagine, I mean, we're going to be, as we talk about our budget, we'll be talking about staffing probably in the next half hour, right, as we look at the budget as a whole. So I think that'll be an important time to talk about that.
And keep it all together.
Yep, makes sense.
Yep, I'm good with that. All right, then any other questions about this specific budget? All right, then I will call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, next that will take us to item number 17, and this is a resolution approving the 2017 Grand Valley Regional Biosolids Authority Operations and Maintenance Budget. Can I get a motion?
Support.
Great. Mr. Mike Lunn is here to talk to us about this.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Morning. This year, the Grand Valley budget is about $7.9 million, approaching $8 million. The city's share is about $5.2 million. We've been in this partnership with Wyoming. I think we've been working on it over a decade now, but formalized it in about 2009. We've been processing solids together since that time. And that's about it, I think.
Pretty straightforward.
It is.
All right. Do we have questions? We partner with Wyoming.
We do.
They're a really great partner. Have been for a long time. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Well, I have some questions, Mike, just about any innovations. I mean, I haven't heard that we're making mill organite or anything like that, but can you update us on innovations that you've considered?
There hasn't been a lot of solids innovations. We're working on a couple projects. I believe there's going to be some board briefings coming up to update the commission on some of the things we've been working on in the background. Of course, we work with our surcharge customers. We're having quarterly meetings with them and looking at doing some innovative things with them. So there's work continuing, and I think there's good news ahead on the biosolids front.
In the biodigester, is that one of the items that we'll be looking at? Or
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
But I hope so. I was going to say it better be, but I should say I hope so.
Biodigestion is one of the things we're looking at to handle increased waste loads due to places like Founders and other places, agricultural growth, dairy growth, and other things in the area.
Yeah. Great. All right. Any other questions? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, next that will take us to item number 18, and this is a resolution authorizing the Monroe North Tax Increment Finance Authority fiscal 2017 budget request. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Support.
All right, and Chris Larson is here to speak to both this one and the next item for the DDA. So we'll start with the Monroe TIF.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the City Commission, City Manager, and others for the opportunity to present these two budgets to you this morning. The first is for the Monroe North TIFA, which, as you know, is one of 3 public finance tools that Downtown Grand Rapids, Inc. manages on behalf of the City of Grand Rapids. This is a request for authorization for $634,550. The Monroe North TIFA has a number of ambitions for the year, which include completing the Coldbrook Trail demonstration project in conjunction with the City of Grand Rapids. We're looking at bicycle improvements as well as pedestrian improvements at key intersections to help to continue to improve the walkability of the Monroe North neighborhood. Contributions to the restoration of the Grand River, advancing the city's tree canopy goal, looking at permanent improvements for stop infrastructure to support the realignment of Dash in conjunction with Mobile GR, so very excited about that, as well as partnership with the Business Association in supporting their banner program, their district identification banner program. So in total, we're looking at, I mentioned the $634,550 for about a dozen projects in the neighborhood.
Questions? Commissioner Kelly, you're actively involved on Monroe North.
Yes, I attend their business meetings every week or every month. Wondering if you've got any information on the opening the underpass. Chris, have you had any conversations about that with MSU?
Are we referencing the overpass along Monroe Avenue for the 196?
I'd love to hear about that too, but no, I was thinking about the one that's fenced off that actually would cross along the edge of the MSU property and down Bond and then into along.
Oh, the tunnel.
The tunnel?
Yeah.
That tunnel is actually inside the DDA area, but I am happy to report that we are in conversations, city leadership as well as myself and other local leaders in the community working with Michigan State on a disposition plan, as well as identifying those key north-south connection opportunities. We had a great meeting last Friday afternoon at the Secchia Center to talk just about that very thing. So as we understand more about the build-out of phases 2 and 3 on the Michigan State side, I think we know more about the opportunity to reestablish that as a pedestrian corridor.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Other questions or comments? Chris, I don't know if you're going to get to this in the DDA budget, so if you are, you can hold off. But serving on these boards, I am extremely impressed with the thought and work and intention of really looking at the investment, livability, and vibrancy committees and the work that's been done to really be mindful about making sure they're diverse bodies. So are you going to speak to that?
I am, and if you would like, because both of these budget processes, actually all 3 run concurrent through our citizen apparatuses that help to influence and inform all the recommendations that you'll see today. So if you'd like, you could hold off on a vote on the Monroe North TIFA, and we can come back to it.
Okay. All right. Any other questions about Monroe TIFA? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, it carries. All right, that will take us to item number 19, and that is a resolution authorizing the Downtown Development Authority fiscal year 2017 budget request.
So moved.
Okay. So, Mr. Chris Larson.
Thank you very much, Mayor. So I want to talk a little bit about our process, and thank you for referencing that the Monroe North TIFA falls underneath the same process. And this is, I'm borrowing here from the International Association for Public Participation. This is their spectrum for public engagement. And we use mechanisms like this to help to inform really the evolution of our organization, ultimately moving from very simple consultation methodologies to building a system of empowerment. And so if you see sort of at the bottom of this chart, all the way in the bottom right, you start to look at this notion of citizen advisory committees, consensus building, participatory decision making, and then ultimately delegated decision making. And this is a big part of the DNA of our organization, and a big part of the philosophy that helped to build DGRI is that we would really look to and inform these educated citizen advisory groups on how to build a budget that best represents our community's larger goals. My apologies that the fonts did not translate well on this, but this will help to showcase some of the progress that we have made in populating our 3 alliances. So our structure engages about 90 members of the community, and this is both city and region wide in helping to shape decisions that affect the downtown. Those are 3 alliances that we call investment, vibrancy, and livability. And so we are very intentional about working to recruit potential members, and then in that process, work to try to build a demographic profile that represents as best possibly the citywide demographic profile, ultimately wanting to make sure that we are listening to a representative cross-section of the city of Grand Rapids. And so you can see some of our work and our progress here as it relates to 2015 through 2016. So we go through an annual recruitment process for 2-year terms on our alliances. This year we had 93 applications to fill 20 spaces. So we're very proud of the interest level to participate in our organization. So you can see the movement there on both age as well as gender. So gender, we made some very significant strides, moving by about 14 points to better resemble the citywide population, as well as in race. So we have made a lot of significant progress, particularly when we look at both the Asian and the African American populations, getting much closer to the actual citywide population. We still have some work to do with the Hispanic Latino communities as well. So this is work that we are committed to doing, and it means that we are constantly building partnerships and exploring new opportunities for people to be involved in our processes, one of which is this budget. So this budget that we present to you today it's a 12-month process. I know that it's not unlike what the city goes through, but we are right now in that recommendation phase, but that's building off of evaluating what worked last year, sort of the ideation process where we're able to really explore the opportunity for creativity, prioritization, and then the recommendation phase. And it goes through a number of different bodies. The key ones are each of our alliances, which then offers recommendations to the respective boards, and those boards then offer a recommendation to you. And we do have priorities that we're working on implementing, and believe me, I heard you loud and clear when we were talking about GR Forward next year about how do we maintain this momentum, how do we keep this moving along. At each one of your places, you'll see this little placard. I take these to every meeting I go to, just to remind folks about the top 7 goals that we're working on as a community, and here's a list of everything we're going to get done this year. So it's a checklist that we developed just to keep people's eye on the ball about what's going on with GR Forward. But then we also continue to honor our partnerships, other projects, and working group recommendations. Total revenues on the DDA side, you can see the majority of this comes from tax increment. So our tax increment revenues are up this year, I think around 4% or so. So that's great news. It means that the value is being created in the downtown. That's the direction we want the curve to move. We also have some specific funding sources to support other projects, like an allocation from the Brownfield Authority that will support the renovation of Veterans Park. We have been working to lever contributions from the private sector to help to manage the design process for Lion Square. So you see about $500,000 there. We do receive a share of parking revenue from Mobile GR for the lots, the DDA-owned lots that the parking system manages on our behalf, which helps to fund our non-tax fund. And then you can see a handful of other sources. In our DDA budget, we have 103 programs, projects, and initiatives for the coming fiscal year. For a staff of 10, that means we have a lot to do. 92 of those are specifically recommended by GR Ford. So this is a part of sort of my master plan here, is about aligning all of these funding sources to help to assist in implementation of the community's plan for itself. That totals up to about 82.5% of the overall expenditures for the coming fiscal year. And then on the non-tax side, we are looking at a significant cash event in the near future should the disposition of areas 4 and 5 go through, which creates a very large bogey in the budgeting process. On the expenditure side, you can see that our Alliance for Investment, over $3 million in planned expenditures over 17 projects. Livability at about $1.7 million and 24 projects, and the Alliance for Vibrancy at $750,000 with about 62 projects. So those things are very different. We're dealing with pineapples and apples and oranges and bananas and all kinds of different ambitions for our organization. But overall, we are very proud to be able to show that of our discretionary spending, we had our citizen apparatus participate in shaping 98.11% of all of that $5.7 million. So that goes back to the structure and the ideas of a mission-driven and community-voiced organization. Outside of discretionary expenditures, we do have other costs associated with administration. We do have contributions to police services. We also have debt service obligations and real estate incentives, which are long-term obligations that we enter into with developers that last on average of about 10 years. So here's an idea of some of our projects. So we do have, Commissioner Kelly, you asked about overpass lighting. We've got a couple of overpass lighting projects in the coming fiscal year, and this is in conjunction with the city and as well as the state of Michigan. We're also looking at building Veterans Park this year, so expanding upon that master planning process from 2012. I mentioned the Coldbrook site, but also continuing obligations for things like areaway fills, reimagining Calder Plaza, which is a design process that launched last month, and then looking at really advancing designs for Lion Square and hopefully breaking ground on that next year. So the Alliance for Investment deals with very large infrastructure and real estate related decision making. Our Alliance for Livability has a different focus. This is really understanding the downtown population and building a great downtown neighborhood, and they deal in areas of arts and beautification, ongoing maintenance and management of the downtown, community engagement, community relations, diversity and inclusion. We also have some interest in parks and open spaces and mobility. So this is some of their ambitions for the coming year. And then the Alliance for Vibrancy, they really help to activate the public realm. We do have our very, very popular Movies in the Park series at each one of your places. I've also placed this piece here. We are continuing to learn and expand in our approach to building a more welcoming downtown. This is the result of some partnerships with the Latino Community Coalition and LINK, where we are offering free transportation to our Downtown Movies in the Park series, the first one of which we held last Friday night. It was an awesome event. We had all kinds of things from hot air balloons to break dancers. And although these numbers are preliminary, we are looking at our demographic reach for the first event, and we've already moved the dial by about 12.5 points in attracting more diverse audiences over the average from last year. So these partnerships are parlaying real returns for the community at large. And that's just really honestly a snippet of our commitment to building things and opportunities that people will enjoy in the downtown, which could range from pop-up events to food trucks, a continuing support for ice skating. Of course, we have our very popular Relax at Rosa series every Thursday in Rosa Parks from May through September. We also have stakeholder engagement programs that work with the downtown merchant community, free parks programming. And then we also have community support programs through our Downtown Events series, and then working to spotlight and improve upon the composition of the minority workforce in the downtown. So That's a little bit of an overview. As I mentioned, we have 103 projects, so there's a lot of ambition for the coming year. But I appreciate the opportunity to tell you about a few of those. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, questions? Commissioners?
Just want to know if Chris was breakdancing, that's all.
I was not breakdancing. I was enjoying watching the breakdancing. That is not my forte. Yes.
No, this is good news, good, exciting.
It is. Chris, I just have one question, and it really came from, I was in Kalamazoo on Thursday evening with Mayor Hopewell, looking at some of the things happening in Kalamazoo, and they have a ton of outside seating in Kalamazoo, and I noticed that most of their outside seating is actually not attached to the building, that they actually leave the walkway close to the restaurant open, and that the seating is actually closer to the curb, in between the trees, kind of in that area of their right-of-way. And so I don't see that as much in Grand Rapids, so I don't know if that's a difference in our local policy or procedures. I don't know if you can speak to that, because I'd love to see more outside seating. And then my other question related to that is, are we doing parklets again this summer?
Okay, so I'll take the second one first. We do have 3 pending parklet applications, so hopefully we're going to be able to introduce some more of those into the public realm, which is related to your first question, which is the orientation of outdoor patio dining in relation to the building facade. And that's a two-part problem. So you have one piece of this on the proprietor's side. Some proprietors have the opinion that they really want to be able to control their environment. And so you'll look at an approach that might involve boundaries or gated areas that divide the public realm from the private use of space. And so in some cases that is a proprietor-driven decision, and I think that would probably be the area of least resistance as they're considering outdoor dining. Where the city, if it were interested to pursue a different arrangement, I think that gets into a level of design standard for the private use of public space, and making sure that we've got that application in the appropriate sidewalk width, because there's a lot you have to accommodate in sidewalks. Yeah. So everything from ADA travel pass to the accommodation for street trees and all the other accoutrement of the public realm. And so really defining where we can accomplish that and being strategic, I think, is important. Our staff had led an effort to integrate that very approach on Monroe Center in the coming year. So we've purchased a lot of planters to help to deploy that in the first 2 blocks of Monroe Center. And we experienced some opposition with some longstanding businesses that don't necessarily want to reorient themselves. And we are careful not to want to create a condition where pedestrians are moving in a snake-like manner through the public realm, particularly those with lesser mobility means. And so that's an important consideration to have in this. I think it's entirely doable, and it's really just about building that buy-in with the business community, helping them to understand the advantages of doing that way, particularly where you have retail. Yeah. And so where you have retail interspersed with dining, it's better for retailers if you've got your shoppers up against the storefront so they can see the pretty thing in the storefront and be enticed to go buy it. You can't see that if you're 7 or 8 feet away from the storefront. And so where we look at those mixed-use districts, those are the opportunities to explore that approach, but it really comes down to building that one-on-one buy-in, because you have existing encroachment holders that we can't necessarily force overnight into doing that. I think we want to work with them, build their buy-in, and help us to get where we want to go.
Well, thank you for that. 3 observations I made. One is that they had far fewer kind of fencing structures. It seemed way more open. They used bulb outs. There were tables and chairs in between the trees in the right-of-way, which created natural shade, so you didn't have to have all these umbrellas for shade. And then also it just felt much more comfortable to be able to walk, and as you said, not have to go around this large fenced-in area. It just felt more natural to me, and it was it was noticeable.
Yeah. If I might mention that, I think a real opportunity to do this in the near term would be Bridge Street, the south elevation of Bridge Street, and that piece that was just redesigned. So we don't have a lot of pre-existing outdoor dining there, and as we work with those restaurateurs, there's enough right-of-way width there to put them into that, what you would consider a bulb out, sort of that mid-block area where the right-of-way widens, to be able to direct the outdoor dining there, which would then keep those pedestrians closer to the storefronts. That'd be an opportunity to pilot that in the coming year.
Nice. All right. Thank you. Appreciate
pleasure.
that. Any other questions or comments? All right, I'm going to call the question then. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries.
Thank you all.
Thank you for your work. All right, commissioners, I want to give us a little bit of time to talk about anything we want to bring up today in lieu of the budget and to inform us as we go into next week's discussion. And then secondly, we have 2 executive sessions that we need to go into as soon as we are done with this. I'm 30 minutes at least.
We're requested 30 minutes each.
30 minutes each, so an hour executive session. I'm going to call for each of them separately. And our clerk just pointed out, we have public safety that started 5 minutes ago. So,
Madam Mayor, if I can just add, because we were kind of thinking about that,
Yes.
that we knew we were going to go over. So I'm wondering if it's possible, I know we want to have the budget discussion and all of that, but I wonder if it's possible, because the Public Safety Committee has not met at all this year, if we could get together maybe for about 15 minutes, or less, to talk about our schedule. And then we can maybe table the 2 presentations until the next meeting, but that'll give us a chance to have a schedule set, and then we can come back and the commission can vote on that at the next meeting. But then it'll prevent us from having to go over, and we know that there are people here who were planning to attend
public
that.
safety.
Yeah.
Okay, so what you're saying is let's go into public safety for like 30 minutes?
I would say 15.
15 minutes,
Mhm.
okay. So let me propose this. We can hold off on our budget discussion. We do have our public hearing tonight anyway. But in the meantime, if you can kind of, make sure that you get, I know I said this last time, get to the city manager some of the things that you want to talk about next week so that he can come prepared for that. And then we will take we have economic development at 12:30. Right?
Correct.
So why don't we do public safety until 11:30, go into executive session from 11:30 to 12:30, and then go into economic development right after executive session. Does that sound like a good plan?
I'm supportive of that, but I think that the history has shown that our executive sessions last a bit longer. I'm really comfortable with the 15 minutes because I think we can schedule the next time.
Okay.
And then go into executive session to make sure we have as much time as possible.
Okay, and these are 2 important executive sessions we have to get through. Let's do, does everyone agree? Can I just kind of see a head shake?
The only thought that I have, and I think having the meeting is important. If we don't all talk as a body about our budget, whether we have ideas to be able to reach consensus on changes might be really tough. And then we're trying to do 11th hour. If there's any changes to be made, I just would like to, maybe have a few days after to think about that. So I just think we need to talk about it at some point in time.
Do we want to talk about it tonight at our 7 o'clock meeting?
Sure.
We can briefly talk about it after the public hearings tonight?
Yeah, it might be good, because I just don't want to lose that time.
Okay.
Good
I'm
thought.
good with that. I'm good with that. Okay, so we are going to, I'm going to call for both of these executive sessions. We'll go into public safety. We'll meet back in the attorney's office at 11:20. And then we'll go into economic development at 12:30. So I'm going to read both of these separately. I need a voice call vote on both. So the first one is a request for a closed executive session that will be held at 11:20 for the purpose to discuss a written legal opinion. Can I get a motion for that?
So moved.
Support.
Okay, Commissioner O'Connor?
Yes.
Lanier? Kelly?
Yes.
Schaefer?
Yes.
Allen?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
Okay. And then the next one is a request for a closed executive session with the City Commission that will follow the one that I just mentioned to discuss pending litigation. Can I get a motion?
Move.
Support.
Okay, and I'll start again with O'Connor.
Yep.
Lanier?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes?
Schaefer?
Yes.
Allen?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
Okay. So we are adjourned for Committee of the Whole. We will meet in the 6th floor legal briefing room / meeting room at 11:20.
11:20, cool.